Hey, welcome back to Get Down to Business, a show all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship. Joining us today is the president of People Profits LLC, a firm dedicated to slaying the three greatest human capital monsters plaguing modern organizations. They are employee turnover, chronically open positions, and the widening skills gap. And I'm joined by Clark Ingram, who brings over 30 years of executive consulting and finance leadership to the table. He has a proven track record of consistently reducing employee turnover by more than 40% in the first year and achieving organizational staffing levels of over 90%. He's the author of the new book, Churn, Proven Strategies to Overcome Failing Conventional Talent Management and Achieve Zero Turnover. He's here to challenge conventional HR programs and show us how to align leadership and performance with measurable data. Welcome to the show, Clark.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, such an honor. You've spent over 30 years as an executive consultant and finance leader. Why do you argue that employee turnover is the ultimate organizational disruptor? And why do you say it eats culture and strategy for lunch?
Well, the problem is if you've got a whole bunch of turnover going on, you got 30, 40% turnover, which is not unusual nowadays, then there's no way you can actually get those people indoctrinated into your culture. And I said indoctrinated, that's really the wrong word, but get them into your and understanding what your culture is and everything, because they're turning over too fast.
You talk about the three-headed monster of turnover, open positions, and skills gaps. When an organization is being eaten alive by these three elements, what's the very first operational move a CEO must make to regain control of the workforce?
You got to find out what the root causes of your turnover are in your organization, and it has to be organizationally specific. Okay. Now, granted, the 80-20 rule, a lot of the reasons are the same throughout different organizations, but you've got to figure out what your top 3 or 4 things that are happening in your organization, and then figure out what you have to do to get those either minimized or eliminated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have a core principle that you cannot recruit your way out of a turnover problem. Why do so many companies try to fix a leaking retention bucket by simply throwing more money at recruitment advertising?
Well, again, the issue is, this is what I run into every time, is that the organizations are trying to recruit their way out. They think that somehow the next group of people they recruit are going to fix their problems, and that never works. What you have to do is figure out what's creating the problems. If you just keep recruiting, you're just going to keep throwing them into the same toxic mess, and they're going to end up leaving for the exact same reasons. So fix your turnover first, fix the problems that are creating that. And then, for one thing, that makes recruiting a lot easier, because now all of a sudden, that's what happened in my current situation. We've cut their turnover by 50% in 2 years. So that cuts their recruiting by 50%.
Yeah, I shared in the show intro some of these statistics, that proven track record of consistently reducing that employee turnover by more than 40% in the first year, and again achieving organizational staffing levels of over 90%. That's huge. I know you talk a lot about it in your new book, Churn, Proven Strategies to Overcome Failing Conventional Talent Management and Achieve Zero Turnover. I'm continuing my conversation with Clark Ingram, the founder and president of People Profits LLC. Kurt, we talk about stewardship. Clark, we talk about stewardship of values on this show. You write that to fix these talent issues, employers need to stop pointing the finger at candidates and start pointing it at themselves. Why is knowing exactly who you are as an employer the secret to attracting the right talent?
Right. Well, the issue is that when you are able to do the recruiting and you're able to figure out who the people are that you're looking for, who are you as an employer? What is what makes you special as an employer? What makes you different why should I come work for you versus work for somebody else?
Yeah, that's an important question to ask for sure. Absolutely. And Clark, can you break down your concept of value pathing and explain how it maps out a clear trajectory for high performers to stay engaged?
Yeah, the issue with value pathing is something that we found was we had a lot of technicians that we were taking from basically they had the aptitude to turn a wrench, but they didn't really know how to do the different processes. And so we were teaching them. So we were taking them from basically ground zero to being very highly skilled technicians. The issue was, and this is actually the number one reason why we were having turnover in the very first company I did HR for, and that was that as they moved along, their compensation did not keep up with their value, and so they were increasing their value. The really kind of cool thing about it was that we took a look at our number one customer was Exxon, and as they moved through the training, Exxon would actually pay us more money based on the training that they had completed. Okay. And so what we found out was all we had to do was take that rate and give them appropriate share of that rate and just pay them as they went along. And that actually stopped all the turnover that was going on in that very first company. Because what was happening was we were adding all this value to them, but they weren't seeing the rewards to it.
Yeah. Clark, really appreciate you coming back to continue the conversation. Your book aims for an aggressive target, zero turnover. That's right, zero turnover. For the skeptics listening who believe a revolving door is just a natural consequence of the modern workforce, why must zero turnover be the explicit operational goal?
Well, the issue is that if you look in most companies, they have zero turnover. Like they have zero as goals. For instance, what's the goal of the hospital I work for right now in regard to patient falls? The goal is zero. Okay, you go into a manufacturing plant and you take a look at what is their goal for manufacturing defects? Zero. What's their goal for customer returns? Zero, etc. So that's the point. I'm making really 2 points when I talk about zero turnover. Number one is that is the standard that most organizations use for lots of things. Now, in the hospital, with the number of people we have coming in, are we going to have zero patient falls in a year? No, it's not going to happen. Okay, but our goal is to get as close to zero as possible. The second thing is that what I have found is in a lot of organizations, what you can find is where you're getting as close to zero for a specific group, like your the backbone of your company. Where we ended up the last 5 years I was with that first company, we ended up having zero turnover in our senior technicians.
That's huge. That's huge. Clark, really, this is fascinating. You advocate for a shift in financial rewards, pay for value, add, and not time served. How does a company practically restructure its compensation model to reward high performers and encourage low performers to move on without destroying morale?
The problem I find, and again, understand, I'm a finance guy. I'm a finance guy that got thrown into HR 30 some odd years ago. Okay. And so I'm not tied into a lot of the HR dogma that's out there. You have to do it this way. I'm just looking to get results. Okay. And one of the major things that you see a lot in HR is that they get compensations by time served. Okay. You come work for us. You stay here for 6 months. We'll evaluate you and we'll give you a small pay raise. Okay. The problem is that doesn't work in a lot of situations, especially if you're developing your people like you should be. Okay, you should be basing their pay on the value add that they have, what skills have they learned, etc. And so I try to get away from this idea of just time served, which is very artificial. Instead, what do we want this person to learn over the next 6 months, and what is a reasonable amount to pay once they show that they know how to do that skill.
Yeah. I've been chatting with the author of the new book, Churn: Proven Strategies to Overcome Failing Conventional Talent Management and Achieve Zero Turnover. That's Clark A. Ingram. Clark, final word over to you. How can people find the book, and how can people learn more about People Profits LLC?
Number one, go to Amazon. My book is there. We got a hardcover, we got an audio book, we got an ebook, etc. But you can also go to really any other online bookseller, and you can find it there. In regard to my theories and all that, if you go to peopleprofits.com, there's a whole website there on both my speaking side and on my book side, and you'll learn everything you need to know.
Absolutely fantastic. Clark Ingram, thank you so much for joining us. That's a wrap for us this week on the show, all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. Get on my website, shalomklein.com. Go on your favorite podcast app. Just search for Get Down to Business. Subscribe, rate, review, and share so you don't miss a single episode.